the ancient Japanese spirit that awakens unlimited energy, Yamato-Damashii. What if the energy you've been looking for, real, unshakable, limitless energy, wasn't something you had to create, but something you had to remember? Something unseen? Something buried deep beneath the layers of distraction and doubt. Something that lives not in your body but in your spirit. Imagine for a moment that energy is not just physical stamina, not just caffeine or motivation, but a sacred force that emerges when your life aligns with something eternal. This is the essence of Yamato-Damashii, the ancient Japanese spirit that once moved an entire nation not with weapons or wealth, but with an unbreakable inner fire. We live in a time where fatigue has become normal. People wake up tired, go to work tired, chase dreams tired, and fall into bed more tired than before. We scroll endlessly, thinking rest will come when we finally catch up. But the deeper truth is we're not just physically exhausted, we're spiritually depleted. And that's where Yamato-Damashii speaks. It doesn't offer a quick fix. It's not a productivity hack. It's not about becoming more efficient. It's about becoming more aligned. Because when your spirit is out of alignment, no amount of sleep can recharge you. And when your spirit is aligned, you tap into a kind of energy that feels infinite, focused, fierce, alive. Yamato-Damashii literally means the spirit of Japan, but it's not limited by geography. It's a state of being, a way of engaging with life that transcends comfort and convenience. It's the kind of spirit that drives a person to stand firm even when everything around them is collapsing. A spirit that refuses to give up not because of ego, but because of honor, because it believes there's something worth fighting for. Something eternal. And when you live from that place, energy isn't something you search for, it's something that erupts from within. But how do we access this ancient spirit in a modern world? It starts by asking a deeper question. What are you living for? Not what are you chasing, not what are you busy with, but what are you dedicating your life to? Because Yamato-Damashii is not about being busy. It's about being bound to duty, to purpose, to something larger than yourself. In Japanese culture, this spirit was often embodied by the samurai, who trained not just in swordsmanship but in character, in loyalty, in self-sacrifice. They didn't rely on motivation, they relied on resolve. And that resolve gave them access to energy that most of us have never tasted.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's make this practical. Right now, think of something in your life that drains you. A task, a goal, a routine. Now ask yourself, is this truly connected to something meaningful, or am I just performing? Because when your actions are disconnected from your spirit, they will always feel heavy. But when your actions express your spirit, they become sacred. You could be sweeping a floor or building a business, it doesn't matter. The energy doesn't come from the task. It comes from the why. Yamato-Damashii flows through purpose like blood through veins. Without purpose, there's no pulse. This is why you can work for hours on something you love and feel more energized afterward. It's not magic, it's memory. In that state, you're remembering who you really are. You're not a machine that needs more input, you're a soul that needs more truth. And Yamato-Damashii is the deep well of truth that lives underneath all your excuses, all your fears, all your fatigue. It's the part of you that doesn't need external validation because it knows its own mission. And when you touch that place, even for a moment, you'll feel a surge of energy that no energy drink can replicate. But let's go deeper. Why have we forgotten this spirit? Why do we live like we're powerless, like we're waiting for something outside of us to save us, to spark us, to push us? It's because we've confused comfort with vitality. We've been conditioned to believe that the absence of hardship equals happiness. But Yamato-Damashii shows us the opposite. It comes through hardship. It is forged in adversity. It awakens when you stop chasing ease and start embracing struggle not as suffering, but as sharpening. Because the truth is, energy doesn't come from avoiding challenge. It comes from meeting it with honor. And that leads us to the hardest question of all. What would your life look like if you stopped living for yourself and started living from your spirit? Not your ego, not your insecurities, not your wounds. Buju actual spirit. The part of you that remembers what matters, that knows what you stand for, that refuses to betray its purpose, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's painful. That's Yamato-Damashii. And when you begin living from that place, you stop running on fumes. You start running on fire. So no, this isn't about being Japanese. It's about being alive. It's about remembering that energy is not something you earn through rest alone. It's something you awaken through alignment, through discipline, through devotion. And until you find that place inside yourself, no amount of rest will ever be enough. But once you do, you'll discover a truth that shifts everything. You are not tired. You are just disconnected. Reconnect with your purpose, and your energy will return. Reconnect with your spirit, and it will never leave. The hidden engine, how devotion to something greater than yourself unlocks infinite drive. There's a moment in every life where we hit a wall. Not a physical one, but an invisible one, a feeling that no matter how hard we push, how many hours we grind, or how many goals we chase, something vital is missing. We say we're burned out, unmotivated, stuck. But what if the truth is simpler and more profound? What if we've simply been driving with the wrong fuel? The ancient Japanese spirit of Yamato-Damashii teaches us that the most powerful source of energy, the kind that doesn't run out, the kind that multiplies the more it's used, comes from devotion. Not to yourself, but to something greater than yourself. In today's world, everything is about the self. Self-care, self-esteem, self-promotion. And while there's value in that, something sacred gets lost when we make ourselves the center of the universe. You see, the self is fragile. It's easily offended, easily tired, easily distracted. But when you attach your energy to something larger, an ideal, a cause, a mission, you tap into a power that doesn't originate from you. It flows through you. It lifts you when your body wants to quit. It sharpens your focus when your mind is scattered. It gives your struggle meaning. And meaning is the hidden engine that turns effort into honor. Yamato-Damashii was never about individual ambition. It was about serving something eternal. For the samurai, that might have been loyalty to a lord, to a code, to the preservation of harmony. For monks, it was devotion to inner awakening. For artisans, it was the perfection of their craft as a form of spiritual offering. And for you and me, it can be anything that pulls us beyond the gravitational pull of ego. Family, legacy, truth, justice, even beauty. The key is that it must be bigger than you. Because when your energy is rooted in ego, it will always fluctuate. But when it's rooted in devotion, it becomes inexhaustible. Let's get brutally honest. How often do we give up, not because we're incapable, but because we're uncommitted? We say we want something, but we haven't anchored that desire to a deeper why. Yamato-Damashii doesn't allow that kind of shallow living. It asks you to consecrate your life, to take whatever you do, no matter how ordinary, and link it to something sacred. You're not just making a sale. You're building trust. You're not just raising a family. You're shaping souls. You're not just surviving the day. You're preparing for eternity. And when you see your actions through that lens, they stop draining you. They start fueling you. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to have an endless reservoir of energy, but they're not loud about it? They're calm, focused, unshakable. That's not caffeine. That's connection. These are people who have stopped asking, "What do I want?" and started asking, "What am I here to serve?" They've shifted the question from self-centered to soul-centered. And that shift changes everything. Because when you're devoted to something bigger than yourself, sacrifice no longer feels like loss, it feels like honor. And effort no longer feels like work, it feels like service. So what does this mean in practical terms? It means you need to choose your mountain. The thing you're willing to suffer for. The thing that gives your life shape. And once you choose it, you give it your life. Not just your leftover energy. Not just your weekends, your life. You wake up for it. You train for it. You become worthy of it. And in return, it gives you a kind of strength that can't be measured in hours of sleep or calories burned. It's the strength of alignment. And alignment is the birthplace of infinite drive. Let me ask you something few people dare to confront. Are you tired because you're overworked or because you're underdevoted? Are you exhausted because you've been grinding for things that don't ignite your soul? Because here's the truth: when you're aligned with something sacred, you want to get up early. You want to go the extra mile. You want to give your best, not because someone's watching, but because you're watching. And that internal alignment, that devotion, is what Yamato-Damashii was always about. This spirit doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be faithful, to show up every day with your whole self, to live in such a way that your energy becomes a reflection of your values. And when you do that, you tap into something ancient, something immortal, a current that has moved warriors, poets, builders, and leaders for centuries. And now, it's waiting for you, because energy is not just about rest. It's about reverence, not what you do, but why you do it. The warrior's stillness, how Yamato-Damashii channels inner silence into explosive power. There's a paradox that sits at the heart of all true strength. The most powerful people you'll ever meet are not loud. They're not frantic. They don't chase attention, and they don't need to prove anything. They carry a quiet intensity, a stillness that feels almost dangerous. Like standing near a dormant volcano, you don't see movement, but you feel the power. This is the kind of energy Yamato-Damashii cultivates. Not the wild burst of adrenaline that fizzles as fast as it arrives, but the deep, controlled burn of someone who has mastered themselves. And that mastery begins in silence. We live in a culture that fears silence. We drown it in noise, music, screens, endless scrolling, constant communication. But silence isn't empty. Silence is where the real work happens. It's where the soul speaks. It's where the warrior listens. And in the ancient Japanese spirit of Yamato-Damashii, silence wasn't weakness, it was preparation. The samurai would sit in meditation before battle. They would practice stillness before movement, because they understood something most people never learn. If you can't control your inner world, your outer actions will always be reactive. They will be weak, scattered, uncentered. But when your spirit is calm, your actions become surgical. Stillness is a weapon, but it's not the kind you wield against others, it's the kind you use to cut through your own illusions. When you learn to sit in silence, you start to see all the noise you've been carrying, the fears, the doubts, the lies you tell yourself. You see your cravings for validation, your addiction to movement, your fear of being alone with your own thoughts. And it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Because in that discomfort, you begin to refine yourself. You begin to separate what is real from what is noise. And that clarity, that inner purification, is what gives birth to explosive power. Have you ever wondered why some people can walk into a room and instantly command presence without saying a word? That's not charisma. That's not charm. That's centeredness. You feel them because they are whole. They are not leaking energy through insecurity or posturing. Their spirit is unified. And that kind of presence is only possible when you've spent time in silence, confronting your inner chaos and choosing discipline over distraction. Yamato-Damashii teaches us that before you conquer any external goal, you must first conquer your inner noise. Because the louder your mind, the weaker your focus. The quieter your mind, the sharper your blade. Let's make this real. Think about how much of your energy is lost every day to overthinking, worrying, second-guessing, comparing. That's not fatigue, it's fragmentation. Your spirit is scattered. And no matter how hard you try to hustle your way through it, you'll always feel drained because your energy is bleeding out in all directions. Now imagine what it would feel like to be whole, to be centered, to act from stillness instead of reaction. That's what Yamato-Damashii offers: not more noise, but less. Not more movement, but better movement. Movement that comes from clarity, not chaos. And this is what makes the stillness of the warrior different from the stillness of the passive. It's not the stillness of resignation. It's the stillness of readiness. Like the moment before a bowstring is released. Like the breath before the first step into battle. It's the stillness that holds all potential energy and chooses when and how to release it. In modern terms, this is the power of focus, the ability to direct all your energy in one precise direction without waste. And in a world addicted to multitasking and overstimulation, that kind of focus is a superpower. But here's the hard truth. You can't fake stillness. You can't perform centeredness. You have to become it. And becoming it means doing the work no one sees, sitting in silence when no one's watching, practicing restraint when your ego wants to lash out, choosing discipline when your impulses scream for distraction. This is the internal training of Yamato-Damashii. It's not glamorous. It's not performative, but it changes everything. Because when your spirit becomes still, your actions become unstoppable. So here's a question that could change your life. What would happen if you stopped reacting to everything and started responding from stillness? What if your energy wasn't scattered by every opinion, every mood, every shift in circumstance? What if you became so rooted in your spirit that nothing external could shake your internal resolve? That's not fantasy. That's the path of Yamato-Damashii. Stillness is not absence. It's concentration. Silence is not weakness. It's strength under control. When you master your inner world, your outer actions become divine. The eternal flame, why Yamato-Damashii is the key to a life of meaning, endurance, and unbreakable purpose. There comes a moment in every life when we ask the ultimate question, what is all this for? Not just what are we doing, but why are we doing it? What is the point of all this effort, all this struggle, all this motion? That question haunts us in the quiet hours, in the wake of success that doesn't satisfy, or in the middle of failure that feels like the end. And it's in that moment that Yamato-Damashii, the ancient Japanese spirit, rises, not as an external answer, but as an internal flame. A fire that burns not for pleasure or fame, but for meaning. A fire that doesn't die when things go wrong, because it was never dependent on outcomes. It was always rooted in something deeper. Yamato-Damashii is not about winning. It's about enduring. It's about holding your ground when everything around you changes. It's about continuing to move forward when the world forgets your name, when the applause fades, when the spotlight disappears. Because purpose is not something you perform, it's something you embody. And when your life becomes an expression of something eternal, your strength becomes unbreakable. You're no longer chasing motivation because you've tapped into something stronger. Devotion. You're no longer running from pain because you've learned to carry it with honor. The modern world teaches us to chase comfort, but Yamato-Damashii teaches us to carry responsibility, not as a burden, but as a gift. Because the weight you carry defines the shape of your life. And when you carry something sacred and ideal, a promise, a value, grow into the kind of person who can withstand anything. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. That's the eternal flame. It doesn't burn you out. It burns away what is false. It reveals the steel beneath your softness, the clarity beneath your confusion, the truth beneath your fear. When you live with Yamato-Damashii, you stop asking, what do I get from this? And start asking, who am I becoming through this? You stop measuring life in moments of pleasure and start measuring it in moments of presence. You begin to see that every trial is a test not of your ability, but of your alignment. Are you who you say you are? Are your actions matching your values? Are you willing to stay faithful to your path, even when it's not easy, even when it's not convenient, even when no one sees you? This is the path of meaning. And meaning is what gives life its weight. Without it, we drift, we distract ourselves, we numb out. But with it, we anchor. We become immovable, not because we're stubborn, but because we've chosen. And that choice day after day, breath after breath is what keeps the flame alive. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be certain. You just need to commit to something real, something worthy, something that outlasts you. Let me ask you a final question, the kind of question that lingers long after the video ends. If your life were a message to the world, what would it say? Would it speak of comfort or courage, escape or endurance, performance or purpose? Yamato-Damashii invites you to live a life that speaks not in words, but an example. A life that burns so clearly that others feel the heat and remember their own fire. The truth is, energy comes and goes. Emotions rise and fall, but purpose endures. And when your energy is rooted in purpose, you become unstoppable not because life is easy, but because your spirit is eternal. That's Yamato-Damashii, not a feeling, a force, not a mood, a mission. And in a world that is constantly shifting, that kind of force is rare, precious, and desperately needed. So the next time you feel tired, scattered, or lost, don't reach for something external. Go inward, listen, reconnect, and remember, the flame has always been there, burning beneath doubt, burning beneath fear, waiting for you to choose it again. Because when you live with Yamato-Damashii, you don't just survive, you ignite. You don't just move, you transcend. And your life becomes more than a story. It becomes a signal, a light in the dark, a call to awaken. A reminder that the human spirit was never meant to flicker, it was meant to blaze. And now, it's your turn. Will you carry the flame?